we will resume our meeting. Please project the 37A motion onto the screen. Mr. Ray Chen, do you claim a division? Yes, please. The bell will ring for 1 minute. In accordance with FC Rules number 37A, I move that the administration delete from the funding application the cost for project design, project management, insurance, construction support, and airport on costs of the project. The AA should be asked to fund these costs so as to lower the project cost to ensure that public money is well spent.
呢度我想加一句咧。
We're going to vote on whether this 37A motion should be proceeded with.
現在
Voting begins. Voting is closed. Results 16 for, 31 against, 0 abstention. The FCA has decided not to proceed it forthwith with this motion. If members have no further questions, I will first put item FCR 2018-19-49 to the vote. The division bell will ring for 5 minutes.
We will be voting on the third runway system, the aviation control facilities, the fire services, and the weather services facilities.
現在開始表決。
We'll start voting now. We'll stop voting and display results. 44, 8 against, 0 abstentions. It is carried. If you don't have any questions, the other item we need to vote on is FCR 2018-19 number 50. Those in favor, please raise your hands. 5 minutes.
大家呢，我哋即將表。
We will be voting on whether we agree to approve air navigation service equipment to support the third runway system and replace existing aged air navigation service equipment.
好啦，現在開始表決。
We'll start voting. And we'll stop voting and display results. 44, 8 against, 0 abstentions. It is carried. We now move on to FCR 2018-19 Agenda Item 51. And this seeks approval of a creation of the Administrative Officer Grade Staff CD2 permanent post in the Tourism Commission, Commerce and Economic Development, the Bureau of Commerce and Industry and Tourism Branch. It was a supernumerary post, and now it will be a permanent post, and we already have a paper to describe that. So the Establishment Subcommittee had spent 2 hours on it, almost 3 hours. So we have in attendance Dr. Bernard Chan Batley and his team. So Chan Ji-chun, 5 minutes. Now, of course, some legislators want the supernumerary post to be a permanent post, and their thinking is to do our best, and we are concerned about the Kai Tak cruise terminal. We spent a lot of time on this, on how to improve the traffic flow and the usage of the Kai Tak cruise terminal. Well, the government says that the primary goal is to help cruise passengers complete their immigration. Well, if that is the case, then the Kai Tak cruise terminal, the other low traffic footfall, doesn't seem to be your concern. Well, that should not be the case. We had a discussion in ESC. So in the past, the popularity of Ocean Terminal, it is convenient. The tourists don't need to leave Ocean Terminal. They can shop and enjoy themselves. So the administrative officer will be monitoring the performance of cruise terminal. If that's a bit passive. So whether they do a good job, you don't know. What are you? We can explore that later on. So the commissioner could also draft policy or assist the drafting of policy to improve the cruise terminal. So could the officials tell us, this post, does it have a responsibility to encourage tourists to stay longer and spend more in Hong Kong? Well, first of all, we have to thank your comments on Ocean Terminal. That is an individual example. If you look at other cruise terminals, including the Shanghai, Taiwan, Barcelona, Melbourne, so there is a certain distance from the downtown area. It is not developed together with a shopping center, and as Mr. Chan said, the Kai Tak cruise terminal is functional based. If you look at the performance, you have to look at the arrivals. It has reached its target. So we want to see if we can transport the passengers effectively from the terminal to other scenic areas. Of course, the post is in liaison with other bureau departments, including the Development Bureau. So the whole Kai Tak area is of high importance. We have land in the available for auction, for shopping and other facilities. So when these facilities are completed, we can increase the footfall. Chairman, he did not answer directly whether the post will be dealing with the traffic and footfall of the cruise terminal. I want to follow up on Enclosure 3. Starting from August 2016, the bus franchise routes 5R only strengthened its service on the weekends and public holidays. So are you aware of the routes, the frequency? It's 30 minutes and 7 to 1 on the public holidays, and on the weekdays it's 11 to 4. So does that mean that if the public don't work and if they're on holiday, they can go visit the cruise terminal. This still has a lot of room for improvement. So Tourism Commissioner Post 4, have they considered the extension of bus service so that more Hong Kong people can use the terminal? Well, regarding the liaison with relevant regarding bus franchise routes, minibus routes, of course we will liaise. We will enhance the activities or the vicinity areas, the boat races, so we will strengthen our services. Well, of course, when you have a big party, you need transport, if you have concerts and so on. But the regular operations, it sounds like it's not quite of the Commissioner's concern. Well, as I said, the main function, we are trying to monitor how many cruises they can attract. We also have to liaise with other colleagues. So, will there be regular contact? Yes. Next, Ms. Claudia Mo. Thank you, Chairman. I agree that the Kai Tak Cruise Terminal is an important tourist infrastructure. The ocean terminal, the berthing facilities are not sufficient to meet the increased demand, but when you look in the FC papers, you only report the good news. You say that it was anticipated that by 2023, in a few years' time, the cruise passenger targets would reach even exceeding 1 million, and now it is 900,000. You have reached a target. So on the surface, it is an encouraging figure, but you neglect the Audit Commission's criticisms. You don't mention that. For example, last year, during the peak season, the so-called peak season is January to March and October to December, the overall usage rate was less than 40%. You couldn't even get to 50% usage rate. And the fact is, a lot of Hong Kong people, including myself, have been once or twice, and there's a lack of infrastructure, transport, even the commerce facilities. The tenancy occupation rate is only 50%, and therefore you say that it was previously it wasn't there wasn't a good job wasn't performed, and now you need someone to monitor that. So do you draw any conclusions over the last 4 years? What was not adequate? It's like a deserted town. So aside from cruise activities, what about other tourist activities do you have? Well, Chairman, I want to emphasize again, the Kai Tak Cruise Terminal in the last 4 years, our major function is to attract cruise ships. We have a satisfactory performance. Now, regarding the berthing figures in the last 4 years, it has been increasing, and we want to maintain this trend. And when we don't have cruises, we do want to encourage other activities. There are many examples, and I don't want to repeat. So we will, let's say yesterday we saw there was a Jazz, a Jetstream 41 airplane, and we wish to attract more people on the weekends. Well, regarding the widening of the roads and other infrastructure, we will liaise with the government departments to strengthen this area. Well, Chairman, if you listen to him, first of all, this is a tourist project. of course you have to berth cruise terminals, and when there's no, it sounds like there are a lot of activities when there are no cruises. Well, this is the first time I've heard of the activity you mentioned that happened yesterday. So even if there's a lot of publicity, well, first of all, yesterday was a work day. There won't be a lot of people. I hope that tourists would visit. And till now, the traffic is very inconvenient. If you want to drive, it's like entering a maze. You have no idea where you need to go. You have to have a tour coach. I don't know. I don't understand how the public transport works. How do you get there? Hong Kong public, if they want to go to the cruise terminal, could you elaborate? Regarding yesterday's Jetstream 48-1, that's a permanent display. Regarding traffic infrastructure, as I said just now, we will negotiate with the operators and fine-tune this work. Well, you really need to catch up. In the last 4 years, it is a bit of a waste. When the cruise terminal started operations, people were applauding because Ocean Terminal is crowded. But now the feeling, well, I don't want to call it a deserted town, but it really is a bit quiet. It doesn't look like a tourist hotspot. Mr. Yu Siweng, I agree that we need to convert this from a supernumerary post to a permanent post because, like Disney, it cannot shut down. It will be here for a while. I'm concerned about its work promotion, its monitoring, and also concerned about Disney regarding promotion. The cruise terminal is hamstrung by traffic constraints. I'm aware that the Kai Tak is undergoing planning. There are some road widening works. There are some alignment projects. So the officials, will they be involved in some traffic arrangements such that the accessibility can reach a better level, because traffic has always been an area of criticism. So there is a travel hub area, and that piece of land has been lying around. So will the official, regarding the use of this travel hub or coordination, have a promotional role? That is the question.
Regarding Disney, as far as promotion is concerned, I think Disney theme park phase 2, I think in the Netherlands, I think that you've signed a contract for a project, but that will not take up the entire site. So don't you have to, identify other investors so that the site could be used more optimally? Does the theme park company have the responsibility to do that? And if so, are you putting pressure on them? And what are the arrangements on monitoring? I'm concerned about the $10.9 billion which will be spent on phase 1 of the Disney project. I don't know whether this officer, regarding the $10.9 billion, would he ensure that after the funds are spent, the project is properly supervised? To answer Mr. Yu's first question, the simple answer is yes. We will talk to the relevant departments and the operators to continue to enhance the transport arrangements. Regarding the Runway Park and the other parks, we would welcome any organizations to come to the to come here to organize more activities when there are no ships calling the terminal. And I also agree with Mr. Yu that we welcome other proposals to be submitted to us. But then it would have to be compatible with the recreational purpose. Regarding the expansion of Disney, certainly we will continue to monitor the progress. Until 2023, there will be new projects that we will launch, and these projects will help increase the tourist or visitor numbers. We'll certainly work on that. Chairman, the Secretary said said that you will improve the facilities inside the cruise terminal. I'm talking about the site outside the cruise terminal. I think I've gone on a site visit with you earlier. The site is simply lying idle there, and from time to time some organizations will be using that site, but it's not very often that they do that. So will you, going forward, do something to ensure that before any new project comes on stream, the site could be used more optimally? Well, the simple answer is yes. We will further promote and encourage more people to use that site. Mr. Kai-Ming? Thank you. From the district level perspective, we don't think the cruise terminal is serving its intended purpose. Well, I think it is the duty of the Security Bureau, being the bureau in charge of custom clearance and the CEDB, is overseeing this as a tourist facility. So, but if it is a facility for the whole of Hong Kong, you don't have public transport going there. There's only Route 22, but it's not very convenient. We don't have enough public transport going to the cruise terminal. There is only one bus every half hour, and there is only a single PLB route, and there is one PLB every 20 minutes. So it's difficult even for tourists to go there. You want to build this up as a local tourist attraction, but you've never talked to the district councils in the 3 neighboring districts. In the last 5 years, they had never been consulted, or you've never sought our views. The Secretary referred to that retired airplane. The FTU had earlier requested that you should, well, I think put a display there, but I think this is not only credit to the CAD, because we also made that suggestion to you earlier. So the question is, well, that location is no longer there, since January 1st, and half a year has lapsed. So what changes have there been? Yeah, there had only been 2 pieces of news. Firstly, that the route number 22 will go to the terminal, and there's no way for them to go inside the terminal. And we also heard that there will be, a flea market or a bazaar to be opened there. People don't want to go to the Tin Shui Wai Bazaar because it's inaccessible. But for the cruise terminal, it takes more than half an hour before people can take a bus to go there. So how can you attract people to go to that bazaar? So how would it be any different from the other similar facilities? Regarding PLB Route 22, the TD has already liaised with the cruise terminal operators. Going forward, we will, liaise with the frontline, operators to ensure that the incident you refer to will not happen again. And secondly, the cruise terminal is not positioned as a local tourist attraction or shopping mall. We want to attract overseas visitors and cruises to come to Hong Kong, and that we'll be able to effectively, dispatch these tourists to other tourist attractions in Hong Kong. This is how the cruise terminal is positioned. It's not like the ocean terminal. I gave you some examples of other cruise terminals elsewhere, and they operate in a similar way as the Kai Tak cruise terminal. While I understand members' concern, and I will be talking to different departments and organizations, we'll do our best to promote the cruise terminal when there are no ships calling, at the terminal. So is the cruise terminal only a border facility with transport connection? So it's like Wang Guang, where you provide transport to take tourists to other parts of the city. So in that case, it will be something that should be under the jurisdiction of the Security Bureau. So in that case, what is the role of CEDB? If you want to attract people to use the Wang Guang, BCF, and attract people to go to the city, that is the duty of the Transport, and Housing Bureau. You say the cruise terminal is not a tourist attraction; it's there to attract cruises to come, and then and then taking the tourists to the city. So, what is your responsibility? Our responsibility is to attract the cruise package, attracting more cruises coming to Hong Kong. We've done a lot of work in this regard. In the last few years, the number of ship calls, I think we've able to reach our target 6 years ahead of schedule. We want to maintain that momentum, so our cruise terminal will not be folded up. We will continue with our efforts. Well, I can say is you're not doing a good job. I'll lock in. Having heard the discussion so far, the more questions I ask, the more confused I become. The Kai Tak Cruise Terminal has been beset with many problems. I go there quite often myself, and every time I go, I don't see many people. You are now proposing to convert this into a permanent post. And someone put forward a suggestion, and you said you will consider it, and eventually you've decided to convert this supernumerary post into a permanent post. In that case, why shouldn't you have should we have talked about this at the ESC first before you come to the FC? And secondly, when you explain how you can do better to promote the cruise terminal, because there are still many, inadequacies, while your performance is improving. In the paper, you said you mentioned the cruise passengers throughput from 2013 and 2017. The numbers have gone up. That's true, but it's still very small, the number. But you've not provided information regarding the per capita expenditure of these visitors. Why is it that the stores which operate there have to fold up? If nobody is spending money there, then, I mean, why are you, so optimistic that you'll be able to do a good job? The numbers you given us is up to 2017. What about the figures for the first half of this year? Is the situation as good as you've painted here in this paper? Regarding the consumer expenditure, consumer spending inside the cruise terminal, as I said, the positioning of the terminal is to attract tourists to come, and that we'll be able to effectively dispatch them to other parts of the city and to our tourist attractions. And this is also the purpose why the overseas visitors come. We have no intention to keep them inside the cruise terminal to spend money. That's not our target. But you do have restaurants there. I've been there to attend banquets. I think they are there to support visitors who are waiting to board the cruises and so on. Of course, for the business operators inside the terminal, whenever it's possible, we'll try our best to help them. In the past, they might have certain aspirations, and we've tried our best to cater to them. I know that there are people, spending money there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone to a wedding banquet there. But But in your projection, one can predict whether or not, organizing a fair there, a trade fair there would be a success. Now, in the 2017 Audit Commission report, 83 operators. In 2016, there had been incidents of water seepage. Of the 67 locations, there had 12, for which there had been more than one incidence of water seepage. There were 3 when there were 3 occasions. Escalators, 98 reported, failures, and 21 had experienced faults. So there have been many faults and breakdowns. So the terminal was only completed in 2013. Now you have so many incidents of water seepage. Will the Tourism Commissioner also, fix the problem of water seepage? Otherwise, how can you continue to attract the tourists to use the facility? Obviously, we will do that. If you look at the numbers over the past year, you'll find that the number of these incidents have been drastically reduced. Drastically reduced? Do you have the numbers to prove that you've resolved the problems identified in the audit report 2017? Commissioner, regarding the failures of the lifts, there were 64 in 2016, there were 21 in 2017, it's down 67%. Regarding water seepage, in 2017, there were 45 incidents, there were 146 in 2016, it's down 69%. Chairman, I'd like to ask for one last set of numbers. They have the per capita consumer spending numbers, but they've not provided that to us. In 2013, $4,290. 2015 is $2,950 in 2015. It's dropping. Dr. Cheng Chung Tai. To follow up on Mr. Ho Kai Ming's question, I think it was embarrassing to the director. I think if you are familiar with the tourism business, you will not position the terminal like that. Whether it's a transport facility or a border control crossing facility, if we don't clarify this point, creating this post will not be able to resolve the problem of the cruise terminal being so utilized. Referring to the numbers for last year, one can see that given there are 2 berths there, and the berthing rate is only 26%. For the whole cruise terminal, I think it's 20 to 30%, and the actual passenger or tourist number is only 0.8 to 1 million. If so few people are using the terminal, it's not a question whether the restaurants or the facilities there are attractive. We simply don't have enough crews coming to the terminal. And it's not just a question whether the terminal is accessible by buses, whether you have water leakage. Even this council building, has the same problem, water leakage. The real issue is who are the people who will still go on cruises. So the audit department published a 108 odd page report. So based on the numbers I quoted, now the question is for the incumbent of this post, will he have any specific target? For example, the projected number of calls. If we create this post, by how much the number of ship calls will go up, and what are the strategies that you will adopt going forward? I agree with Dr. Cheng that in terms of promoting cruise tourism, there's still a lot of work to be done. With the commissioning of the Hong Kong Zhuhai Macau Bridge and the XRL, more visitors from southern China will come to Hong Kong, and they will patronize these cruise products in Hong Kong. So we'll step up the promotion. But I don't quite agree that there are no ships or cruises calling at the terminal. if you look at the last figures for the last few years, you'll see that the number is steadily going up. On the 12th of October, we will have a summit for tourism for the Greater Bay Area. We will be discussing with the neighboring, cities how we can provide for, how we can promote, cruise tourism. You talk about the Belt and Road and the Greater Bay Area. You also have. I understand that cruise, traveling by cruise, or enjoying a cruise holiday is not. I don't think we should be looking at visitors from the Greater Bay Area. But I think basically the targeted clients will be the elderly, and they will prefer, a well-known pop star like Jimmy Me to perform. So have you approached that performer? So I think you need to position yourself clearly. So if you target, I don't think the visitors from the Greater Bay Area would not be your target customers. So the cruise terminal should be looking at a niche, of a market. Strategically, I don't think you should think that with closer collaboration and more infrastructural projects in the area. But basically, I must point out that young people are not your target clientele. Maybe families, and in particular senior citizens, should be your targets. So I rather that you package a cruise terminal as a high-end, product. Mr. Kong Chun-Yi, Chairman, I find our discussion really ludicrous. We have the so-called cruise terminal, but it's actually like a no man's land. Today, you're submitting this paper, you're telling us to give you a chance to try it out. You tell us that many things are improving. If you look at what you say in paragraph 20, with the efforts by the government and related parties, we are seeing encouraging results. For example, you're saying that the number of ship calls have gone up. You've cut down on, that we have, for example, the breakdowns of escalators have come down and so on. But the point is that you made a very bad start. So, despite all the improvements, I think the problem with the cruise terminal is that is inaccessible. When the bus goes there, they're not allowed to enter the cruise terminal. You are telling us that you need to maintain the momentum. You say that the numbers are no longer falling; it's actually going up. But you must admit that you made a very bad start in the beginning. So you're trying to actually salvage the situation. If you type in cruise terminal and search online, you find many overseas examples of, of the experience in Sydney and Singapore, where, the government have put in the efforts to really, help the cruise terminals. But you're not telling us you have any plan on your part. You're just telling us that the numbers are steadily improving. But that is not an encouraging result.
So please enlighten me. Under the situation, now you have to convince us. We know that traffic and transport arrangement is a big problem there. If we approve this paper, what bold measures will you take to ensure that this terminal will not be a laughingstock? Regarding route number 22, I've already responded to that. I will not repeat. And Mr. Kwong said that Singapore did a good job. If you look at the number of ship calls and also cruise passenger throughput, I think we are comparable with Singapore. So I think using the figures we have now, we are doing quite well. Now, it's not because we had a bad start and therefore the percentage increase has been good. No, this is not the case. We want to keep this momentum. There was only 190 calls and the utilization rate was 26%, and you spent more than $8 billion on that, and you're already satisfied because we're comparable with Singapore. I think no one will object that the cruise terminal is in a poor state. I took some elderly persons there last year. The shops were closed and they had to ask for help, asking for rent concessions and so forth. So the government doesn't know what to do. You may as well come clean and tell us you are not doing well and you should take bold measures to ensure that the $8 billion spent on this terminal is value for money. Now, you say that you are happy with the gradual increase in passenger throughput. We do not hear any reforms. All right, can you give us ways to improve the traffic connection? And Secretary, what plan do you have for the future? Thank you. I think we have to sort out the concept. The main function of the cruise terminal, let me repeat once again, is to attract passengers and ship calls to Hong Kong. In this regard, we are comparable to other successful cruise terminals. If you regard this as a shopping center, this is not the main function of the cruise terminal. But as I said, we don't mind playing the role of a coordinator, so that when there are no ship calls, the space can be well used. So we are going to have some development plans for Kai Tak, not just a cruise terminal, covering residential developments, hotels, and retail facilities when they are commissioned. This is going to increase the vibrancy of the Kai Tak area. Mr. Wilson, the Bureau would like to create a permanent post, and the salary the average monthly salary will be $880,000. Now, this is going to be funded by public money. The DABL as well as members of the public would want the post holder to be effective. From the Undersecretary's replies, I have the impression that the cruise terminal will still be criticized by district councils, by members of the public. They will still be unhappy with the performance of the government and the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau. Now, the Undersecretary said that they would want to use the cruise terminal as an attraction point for passengers to visit Hong Kong, so that they can visit other parts of Hong Kong. Now, for the public, when the cruise terminal has ship calls, it's all right. If not, it's just like no man's land. There are no shops, no activities, it's entirely dead. So with this post created, what suggestions do you have to improve the situation? Can the post holder play a coordinating role? Now, for transport, is the TD, management of the loan, LCSDs, portfolios, and so forth. Now, if the cruise terminal is so positioned, if there aren't major improvements after the creation of this post, you are just inviting more criticisms. I'd like to know whether the new post can play a coordinating role with other government bureaus and departments, and do you have key performance indicators with the introduction of the post to let LegCo and the community know how you're going to improve the traffic accessibility, better management, improvement of trade mix, and to attract more retail outlets there. If you don't have these indicators, I'm afraid that even with the new post, the current situation will remain. So what are your expectations for the new post? What short, medium, and long-term measures do you have to address the issues which are heavily criticized by the Audit Commission, by the community, and legislators? Now, for short, medium, and long-term measures to improve the cruise terminal and how to make the cruise terminal more accessible for local people. Now, we have very close liaison with inbound tour groups, hoping that they can take tour groups to visit the cruise terminal. I've explained this in previous oral questions in the Council. Will enhance liaison with organizations, hoping that there can be more activities here to attract pedestrians. Now, in January, we had the Volvo Ocean Race. We took pains to schedule the event there to enhance the vibrancy of the area. We'll keep up with our efforts. We'll enhance publicity. He is not answering my question. He's just repeating his line to take. So, Undersecretary, tell us what short, medium, and long-term measures you have with the creation of this post. Don't talk about making this tourist attraction. We understand that, but we want to know how you can improve traffic connection here, how you can liven up the whole place, how can you monitor the terminal operator. You have to hand in your homework. Mr. Oh, the main duties of this post is to attract cruise to Hong Kong so that we have more ship calls. It is responsible for publicity to the other parts of the world. Does that mean that you can ignore concerns close to the heart of the community? Now, for traffic infrastructure and development of the area, as I said, we're going to liaise very closely with other colleagues and other operators, hoping to enhance the vibrancy of the whole area. If you rely on the cruise terminal alone to liven up the whole of Kai Tak, now, even if we turn the cruise terminal into a shopping center, this is not going to resolve the problem. We have to do something that can contribute to our economy and tourism industry. Now, we will do a good job in liaison. We understand members' concern. We'll do our very best. Mr. Pt2, thank you. Chairman, the Undersecretary called it a shopping city. In fact, this cruise terminal may as well be turned to an interim housing project so that thousands of people can live there and people will not criticize you anymore, because this is really hopeless case. The 60,000 square meters of retail space is not being used. According to the Audit Commission, the utilization rate at peak season in 2014, 15, 16, well, in 2016 was 38.3%, and the Undersecretary keeps telling us that they're doing extremely well. In 2006, when you came to ask for money for the terminal, the Commissioner for Tourism said back then that at most 9,200 to 16,000 passengers throughput could be supported every day. Now 9,200 using the floor, you multiply by 365, it should be 3.35 million passengers. When the administration planned the cruise terminal, I would like to know the full capacity in terms of passenger throughput planned. Let me share with you some statistics on the whole year utilization rates compared with nearby cruise terminals. Singapore? No, please don't talk about other places. I like to know the full capacity of the cruise terminal, because members are just only refer to the low percentage. No, I'm sorry. This is not my concern. I never know what is the full capacity. I just want this. Do you have this figure? Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner. Let me clarify. The operation of the cruise terminal is different from that of a ferry pier. Usually a ship will stay there for a while, from half a day to one, to allow passengers to boarding and unboarding of passengers, and to stock up supplies. So it's hard to have a full capacity, and it's not possible to reach a full capacity every day. No, 9,200 to 16,000. Well, on one day, there were 4 ships calling. All right, what is the full capacity of your cruise terminal? And you can't work that out because the cruise do not just stop there. All right, you can discount those days. In 2017, Kai-Tak, for instance, 784,000. Now, if the full capacity is 2 million, then I know I just want the full capacity. Well, we had indicators. We said that by 2023, it should be 500,000 to 1.04 million. Well, when we build an airport, we have full capacity. You can do that for an airport and not for a cruise terminal. Is there something wrong with you? Now, we have 161 days with ship berths there, but that doesn't mean that now we have 2 berths. We may not have the berths fully taken up throughout the year. I do understand. All right, when you build an airport, you want to take care of 100 million passengers. So do you have a similar figure for the cruise terminal? You have an infrastructure project. Why don't you have the full capacity planned? I don't know what you're doing. The maximum throughput per day is about 10,000. If you multiply by 365, theoretically you arrive at a figure. But we want to say that doesn't mean that no. Chairman, you say I shouldn't be times 365. You say that in the for cruise terminal you should apply a 40% discount or 60% discount. There must be a standard. Mr. Chu, we said that after the cruise terminal has been in operation for a while, then the throughput should be 1 million or so. So we work according to this figure. Dr. Fernando Jiang, 5 minutes. I think that the logic for creation of this post is a bit strange. Mr. Eddie asked a very fundamental question which was not answered. They keep telling us that it cannot be worked out. This is strange. The post will oversee the cruise tourism in Hong Kong and also development of the Hong Kong Disneyland Resort. We spent more than $8 billion on building the cruise terminal, and for Phase 2 of Hong Kong Disneyland Resort. Now, the reclamation has been idle for more than a decade, and this will continue in the near future. I was thinking that they would review the current situation, identify the problems, and tackle them. But this is not the case. According to the paper, both have been thriving. For Disneyland, we have been in more than 10 years of its operation, only 3 years, we're not in the red, and talked about creating 230,000 jobs and 70 million visitors to Hong Kong. And cruise terminal, they've also attained the targets. Whether it be the number of ship calls and cruise passenger throughput in 2017, it has already achieved the planned level for 2023. So they have actually exceeded their targets. And we're told that the cruise terminal is not positioned as a shopping mall. And in other places, their cruise terminals are usually closed when there is no ship call. All right, given that the two infrastructure projects are doing so well, why should we add another post to monitor them? On the one hand, we have this big debate on land use. We don't have enough land for housing when this cruise terminal is vacant most of the time, idle most of the time, and you say that it's doing very well, and the reclaimed area for Phase 2 Disneyland has been idle for more than 10 years and more. So why should we create another post to waste public resources? Because the two items are already very successful. Why should we give them another post to make the two items more successful? I want them to identify the problems associated with these two tourism projects and how they are using the post to rectify the problems. Chairman, since the two projects are so successful already, why do we need another post? Now, for the cruise terminal and Disneyland Resort, there is always a lot of room for improvement. First, for Disneyland, there were 3 years where we had profits, and the past 8 years, the past 3 years, we could break even. Now every year we have new attractions added. So in the near future, we are quite optimistic that Hong Kong DL can attract more tourists. So this colleague to be created will ensure that Phase 2 expansion will proceed as planned, and Phase 2 will continue to be taken forward.
So cruise terminal and Disney are an important infrastructure. So tourists who have not been to Hong Kong, they will think of the theme parks and large infrastructure. And the tourist industry can create a lot of job opportunities and other related businesses. So the work is not a waste, it's necessary. So the past operation has been successful. You're also optimistic of the future. So why do you need a permanent post? We have a lot of ancillary development or international development to enhance our position. So this role is very important. It's not to save the cruise terminal, it's for a better future. Yes. Do you intend to ask the question? But after hearing the response to Fernando Zheng's question, it sounds like the new post, where will the work focus be? Because in responding to the colleagues, you say that the cruise terminal wishes to attract more cruise ships to Hong Kong. That will be the focus. Regarding the cruise terminal shopping mall development, that is not within your scope. And Disney, you want to monitor the work, how it can complete on time. But you also say that they need development, they need to increase tourists. So could you explain what will the colleague be doing in the future? Because it seems like they can do all kinds of roles, and sometimes when you criticize their work, then they'll say that was not within their scope. So could you give us in greater detail what that person will be doing in the future? Well, to put simply, regarding the long-term development of the cruise industry and the long-term development of Disney, that will be the focus. These two items are very important to our tourist industry. Well, that means they'll do everything. Well, regarding cruise terminal development, they need to attract cruise tours. They need to promote many stops in one destination. In the upcoming Disney expansion, there's a lot of work. Well, if you want to attract cruise tours to Hong Kong, does that mean you rule out the other commercial activity? It won't attract tourists, so you won't focus on that? But it is related. Well, as I said, Hong Kong overall has a lot of unique tourism scenic spots. We rely on this to attract tourists. We don't rely on the shops in the cruise terminal. The shops in the cruise terminal are to make it convenient for waiting tourists. They can purchase some products, so it is not just an attraction for tourists. Of course, for the business operators, we want to assist them. So, Chairman, it does sound strange. Any tourist attraction will have commercial activity to supplement the tourist activity. So, you said just now, the tourists, the cruise tourists, before they board the ship, they want to do some retail therapy, and if there's nothing, they might not be interested in waiting on the vessel. So, will you request the colleague to also spend some efforts on improving the shopping mall? Well, I can answer you, we will do this. Well, the shopping mall, whether you have this post or not, are you satisfied with its performance? Are you satisfied? Well, as I said, the colleague major function is to develop the cruise industry. Now, regarding commercial activity in the cruise terminal, we don't mind coordinating some efforts, but that is not the focus of developing the cruise industry. So the cruise terminal is the SAR government satisfied or not satisfied with its performance? As I said, when we built the cruise terminal, we had some cruise ship and foot traffic assessment, and we're satisfied. There are a lot of opportunities that we need to grasp. Well, I asked whether the government is satisfied. He did not answer directly. Regarding we are satisfied with the development of the cruise industry, and it is progressing optimistically. Well, we spent more than an hour on this topic. We also discussed this in the ESC. Now, our FC has limited time, and we have 17 items waiting for approval. So I'll need to draw a line here. I need to handle other items. So if you've, let's read out the list: Hao Kai-ming, Ao Lo-Him, Chen Ji-chun, and Fernando Zheng. So after this, we will be voting. Hao Kai-ming. Chairman, I feel the explanation regarding the positioning is not clear. We heard that it's supposed to be a hub, but the infrastructure is not coordinated. For example, we have a restaurant with 100-table capacity. There's also a family restaurant. I don't think this is for cruise passengers. And then the activities they have in mind are on the 11th of May, according to the Oriental Daily. They will have a bazaar. They will invite NGOs to submit suggestions. This is supposed to be a local measure. The secretary says he indicates that he's not clear regarding the government's position. So we need an indicator. So you mentioned the Volvo Ocean Race. It is attractive. So if we have a KPI, so if we have 26 weeks out of 50 weeks, 52 weeks in a year, we can reach a certain figure. So when you create this post, can you tell us, can we achieve this goal? After creating the post, you can ensure that at least half of the 52 weeks we can have some Volvo Ocean Race turnout. Then it would be more persuasive. If you say it cannot be done, then extension of this post, the tourist commissioner, I don't see what effect it will have. Well, as we said, we do have a main and secondary functions in the cruise terminal. I don't mind setting KPIs for number of ships visiting Hong Kong, the number of passengers, but the general public visiting on business days, of course, that would be icing on the cake. So we can pledge that we will have to liaise more with our bureau and department colleagues, but I cannot make a promise on this because this is a secondary goal. Well, the whole cruise terminal is deserted. It doesn't achieve your goals. So if you have a KPI and the colleague can pledge that they can reach turnout of the Volvo boat race, 26 out of the 52 weeks, that was the best visit. There was a 10-minute ferry, there were activities, and if we can achieve that half of the year, I would accept that. But the bazaar doesn't seem to be of that level. You don't even have any consultation. We understand the concern. In the past, we had different activities. Can you lay down some KPIs? We will continue to plan activities to attract. Well, the Volvo Ocean Race is only once a year. We need to stimulate activity in the cruise terminal. You're paying 160,000 in salary for this colleague. Well, when our residential projects and business commercial buildings are built, it will increase commercial activity. No, that is not the case. It is not accessible by foot. We will also enhance the traffic. Well, next, Mr. Ao Lo-Him. We spent the larger part of the hour on the cruise terminal, we didn't talk about Disney. Disney is another long-standing deficit problem, and now they want to build phase 2 hotels. I see the person in the position thinking according to the position. So in the last session I talked about per capita spending for cruise terminals. It's $4,290 in 2050, and now it's less than $2,900, and for non-overnight it's $1,300. It's all fallen. So in the shopping mall you have so many facilities. You say it's not the main purpose. You are trying to serve the cruise passengers. Well, I feel you say that you need more footfall traffic. In paragraph 11, it's comical. In 2017, the traffic figures were for the whole of Hong Kong, and you apply that to Kai Tak. You should not make these inappropriate analogies, and you also mix it up with the express rail link. So we can tell that the XRL and the cruise terminal are two separate items. You need, if you want to increase footfall, first of all, traffic has to be handled. I know there's a ferry service from North Point to Kwun Tong, but that is insufficient. The restaurant, they have to host wedding banquets. They have to wait in Telford Gardens for the minibuses. So if you don't have some Kowloon East traffic arrangements, you cannot attract people. There are other facilities being built. There's a children's hospital. So how can you handle the traffic? Second, when you draft the document, you shouldn't apply the whole figures for the whole of Hong Kong to Kai Tak in order to get a more accurate figure. And most importantly, you need, if you have extra footfall, how do you increase the per capita spending? So having a bazaar won't achieve that. I hope you can consider my suggestions. I had originally wanted to ask questions about XRL, the figures, and what returns you have on tourist products. But you're not. If you weren't in this position, you might be arguing with Mr. Oh Chong saying there are a lot of problems arising. Well, regarding the analogies, the embarkment figures for 2017 were 180 vessels. The majority of the vessels had berthed at Kai Tak Cruise Terminal. Regarding the road widening works and enhancing traffic infrastructure, this is ongoing. For example, in 2019, the road widening, the dual-lane carriageway, we want to increase traffic. So the T3 route, we hope that it can be completed in a few years' time. Plus other commercial land, as I said, that would stimulate traffic. Mr. Tan Jixun. Chairman, our discussion today is tragic. Legislators are pleading with the officials to stimulate the terminal, but we see the government is withdrawing, retreating. In the establishment subcommittee, they were discussing with us on about how to stimulate activity in the cruise terminal. But today, they say that the purpose of the cruise terminal is to help them complete immigration procedures inbound and outbound of Hong Kong. Well, if you just measure by that yardstick, then you've done a great job. And Mr. Oh Chong Sing are very anxious. If you are just measured by that yardstick, we don't need this post. After the last ESC meeting, you want to convert the supernumerary post to a permanent post. You want the government to pump more money. But what I hear today is a further retreat and backtracking. You say it is not the policy goal. That work can be done, but it will be ancillary work. So when the government uses public money to build a cruise terminal, you have a responsibility to ensure that the job is well done. It's not just about immigration procedures being completed smoothly. So it's not hallelujah, job well done. So one of the roles of the post is to monitor the performance of the operator, and the paper does not report on the performance of the operator. We are concerned about the tenant occupancy rate, the rental rate. Well, today you say that it's not relevant, you do not discuss. So how do you monitor the operator's performance? So you have no KPI. I don't think you will be setting KPIs because it's not the main purpose of your policy. So I want to ask the traffic figures for the rooftop garden, the number of complaints. Do you have this information? And will this information be disclosed? Can we look it up? Then we can talk about whether you've done a good job in monitoring the operator's performance. Chairman, I agree with Mr. Chan's comments about activities, increasing tourist footfall. We can do a bit more. So regarding the statistics, our colleague had mentioned, if necessary, we will report to the public. Okay. Next, Dr. Fernando Zhang. 4 minutes. The Buddhist approach in management, we have meditation, and now they need an extra Buddha. I don't understand what the logic is. The cruise terminal operator, they are satisfied with their performance. They say they even receive an award. So they have the same line of thinking with the government, but the Kai Tak cruise terminal is located in a downtown area. The Kai Tak land sells at a premium price, and I feel this is a very precious public resource.
You're saying that the terminal is positioned in that manner in other countries when there are no ships calling, then they will close the terminal. The fact that we're opening the cruise terminal 7 days in a week is already very exceptional. Since you're so satisfied with this performance, you say, but then even phase one, the development phase one is not yet completed. There's still many outstanding projects yet under phase one. For phase two, we've been waiting for more than 10 years. So when you create this post, how would it help with the implementation of phase two? You can allow Disney 20 years to decide whether or not they would acquire the land, and you will also give them a 5-year period, and only 25 years from now, you will then look at the emission numbers. If they meet the target, they can have another further 5 years. So this piece of land could be laying idle for 30 years. So for the incumbent of this post, how will he help in promoting the development of phase 2 of the Disney theme park, namely the 60 hectares of land? Will he continue to simply sit still and wait for Disney to make a decision? Regarding the overall development of tourism and cruise terminal, we've always been proactive, and I don't agree that we are adopting a very passive approach. We will be attending an international tourism summit so that we can talk with the neighboring countries as to how we can together develop the market. The incumbent for this proposed post will monitor the expansion under phase 1. And for phase 2, we would welcome any related projects and application to use this site if they fit in with the ambience of the theme park. So what proposals have you received? When I answered the oral questions earlier on, well, as I said, in the newspapers, you've heard of a project using flowers as a theme. I understand in your last answer you told us you have not received any proposal. So far we have not received any applications, but earlier we have witnessed a signing ceremony. A Dutch flower company has the intention to use phase 2 of Disney theme park, and we are happy to see that happening. If in the past we have carried out any review about these public resources which are not being fully utilized, and based on the results of this review, you are creating new positions to come up with solutions. But as of now, I see no reason why you need to create this new post. If there are no further questions, I'll now put FCR 2018-19, 49 to the vote. The division bell will ring for 5 minutes. Chairman, I note that I think the creation for the post in respect of innovative technology, we are not going to have a separate voting on these items. Chairman, is it possible that for those items we can vote on them first? I think the government is talking to the different political parties as of now. Basically, this is what we want to do. After we've completed those 4 items which do not require any discussion, let's see whether we can also cover that one as well. So you also support that? Yes. Could you represent your colleagues? So, Chairman, I'm an independent councillor. So I think you're, adding to my trouble. Fernando Joe, Ray Chen, do you support that? Well, the arrangement is that for the next 4 items, we don't need to discuss them. And in the past, we would simply, approve them by show of hands. And after that, we will deal with the post concerning the ITB. And if the members don't have too many questions, then we can cover that item as well. And then we can adjourn after we finish with that one. For the others, we will deal with them 3 months from now.
嗰個都係其中一個嚟嘅，嗰個都係會即。
It's one of them. So it's included, amongst those four.
而家聽到啦，工作人員請你開翻個咪，好啊！而家聽到啦，喺工作呢個公司註冊處。
To create a company registry manager and also two permanent posts at the CEDD to promote the development of public housing. HAB, a supernumerary post to review the building management ordinance and also reinstating the Fushan public mortuary. Dr. Enchan, will you be dealing with the item regarding gifted, education? No, I'm afraid not. Perhaps you can talk to the government. Normally, it would be the government putting forward the proposal. I think we can, improve it with a show of hands right now. Do members have any questions relating the item on gifted education, the $1 billion funding application? Or you still have many questions? Well, in that case, let's see whether we have enough time to deal with that. If we can deal with the preceding items quickly, then we can come to your item. Don't worry, Dr. Chang.
好啦，現在開始表決。
Voting begins. So this is in respect of the creation of the permanent post under the Tourism Commission. Voting begins now. Please, cast the votes now. Voting is now closed. We have 17 for, 15 against. I declare that the paper is approved. I think the government has a proposal. Ms. Lau. Thank you, Chairman. As we all know, we are towards the end of our meeting, and the government would like to make this proposal. We hope we will have your support. That is for the 4 items on the agenda today, items 11, 12, 13, and 19, or 14. Sorry, 11, 12, 13, and 14, since no members have asked for them to be voted on separately. We would like members to vote on these 4 items first, so that before the end of the meeting, we would be able to approve as many projects as we can. Thank you. So that is a decision for the chairman of the FC, but still, I'd like to ask whether there is any objection. If not, then we will adopt that arrangement. Chairman, I'd like to put on record that originally in respect of the HAD's and the item on, building management, for some administrative reasons, we're not able to deal with that. I'd just like to put that on record. But in that case, let's deal with paper 41, FCR 2018-2019. So this is the proposed creation of a company to create a permanent post in the company registry, a registry manager to oversee the operation of a new registry set up to implement a new regulatory regime for trust or company service providers. Those for, those against, I think the majority of members are in support of the proposal. Next, FCR 2018-44. Please approve the, this is the proposal in EC 2019-14, that is to create 2 permanent posts at the CEDD to take forward and manage the technical studies and site formation and infrastructure works associated with public housing developments. Those for, those against, I believe the majority of members present are in favor of this project, so the proposal is carried. Next, FCR 2018-2018, 56 members are invited to endorse the proposal in respect of 2018-19-14 to create a directorate post under the Home Affairs Department to review the Buildings Management Ordinance Cap 344 and related initiatives. Those in favor? Yes. Yes. I am the chairman of the Property Management Board. Anyone else would like to declare the interest? Mr. Chanang Ban. I'm a member of the Property Management, Commission. Those for, those against, I believe members present, the majority of members are in favor of the project. The project is carried. Next, we come to paper 47. Members are recommended to approve the creation of the upgrading of 20 NB to Cat A, which is the Project 20 NB reprovisioning of Fushan Public Mortgage Sha Tin at an estimated cost of $1,038 million. Those in favor? Those against? I believe members present, the majority of members are in favor of this project. I declare that this proposal is carried. We now move on to FCR 2018-2030. We need to discuss this paper. I'm sorry, I need to go back to the item for the ITB. So first of all, so this is a proposal to improve the ESC's decision made at the 26th of June, which is to create a permanent post and an AO staff grade C post to take forward the policy initiative to spearhead innovation and technology development in Hong Kong. The government has also provided a supplementary paper further to the panel meeting. So, Mr. Chen Chi-Chun, thank you. At the ESC meeting, I had asked the question, that is, what is the annual budget for in the supplementary paper, we understand that the total annual expenditure would be $18 million. Staff cost is $1,705 million. For the remaining $1.29 billion, it will be to cover the office expenses and recurrent expenses and also for promotion and publicity. I understand that this infrastructure department is an administrative department. Why does it need to conduct promotion and publicity? What are these expenses in relation to promotion and publicity? Chairman. Well, this branch, this newly created branch, will oversee the Science and Technology Park Corporation and to oversee its operation, and also the 2, innovative technology clusters. Especially for the new clusters, we may need to incur some expenses to promote them. But so this is part of the overall departmental expenses. So we may not need to do a lot of publicity, but since we have built these, we're going to build these 2 clusters, we may need to print some, pamphlets or brochures to publicize these 2 clusters. Chairman. So this is the infrastructure branch, and you have to promote this cluster. Is it part of the duties of this branch, that is producing pamphlets and leaflets and so on. Well, in our rough work plan, this may be part of the task. For example, publicizing these two clusters, and also having to liaise with other R&D centers and universities to attract them to come to the park and so on. So there might be some, they may need to produce some pamphlets to promote these clusters. Where at the ES panel, members have asked what yardsticks you have to assess the performance of this incumbent, and we understand that there will be some purpose. For example, with establishment of the cluster, how many labs, how many projects will there be in the first year, how many R&D staff will be recruited, and all such information will be reflected in the annual report of the Science and Technology Park, and also in its annual report on governance. Now that you're proposing to create this post, could you tell us this? With the commission of these clusters 1 year or 5 years down the road, how many labs will be built, how many R&D staff will be recruited? And if the innovative and innovative technology clusters cannot satisfy cannot meet the targets which your branch has set, then we would have a basis to evaluate or to hold this branch and this assistant director accountable. According to our rough estimate, it is our target that the cluster in the first year upon its completion, I think there should at least be 4 or 5 of such labs being built and beginning to operate. And a few years later, if for the sites that we have reserved for the entire cluster have been fully used, then there would at least be 10 or more laboratories. So adding the two together, there should be at least 20. Assuming that each laboratory would employ 60, 70 people doing R&D work, then we're talking at least 1,300, 1,400 R&D people conducting R&D work there. So how many local R&D staff will there be? Do you have a target for that? We have no particular target to differentiate between local and R&D staff and those from outside. But for these R&D centers, it is our plan that they must collaborate with, have projects to work collaboratively with the university. So we believe that there will be many R&D staff who are locals. I first of all would like to extend the meeting by 15 minutes. Mr. Ao Hin. Well, the creation of this post is actually for the Innovation and Technology branch of the Bureau. One of its duties is monitor the development of innovative technology facilities. Does it mean that you would like to follow up on the project regarding the Hong Kong Shenzhen Scientific Park, Science Park? So how do you monitor this project, including the progress of the work and so on? Would you be reporting public periodically?
This post is not responsible for the I&B Park. Rather, it will oversee the operation of the Science and Technology Park, including the hardware infrastructure there. And some example is the Advanced Production Center at Zhong Guan O, and also expansion of the Science Park, as well as development of the InnoCell. So these are really physical infrastructure. So I have a follow-up. When we discuss INT issues, we talked about the success rate of the science park. While they claim that is excellent, but I don't think that's the case. Statistics showed that some of the companies were not really opened. So, this incumbent of the post enhance the success rate of the science park. Now, at first I talked about the Science and Technology Corporation because in the Science and Technology park, there was a case of the tenants subdividing their premises for subletting. I know you're not dealing with that. You talk about the industrial estate and the science park, but will you ensure that this will not happen to these facilities? Now, the occupancy rate of a science park is as high as 90% now. And we require and also urge the management of science park to monitor the situation in the park. So we are quite confident that most of the companies are really engaged in R&D there. As regards whether there are subdivided units in the industrial park, industrial estate, it is in fact wrong reporting, because the management have visited the site themselves, and the premises are for providing services, not really subdivided units for subletting. We attach a lot of significance to this matter, and from time to time we closely monitor the situation with the management. And this colleague will liaise very closely with the science park. Thank you. Mr. Pt2, my question is simple. Well, when we had an item on funding application of $30 billion, I said that the government has spent a lot of money to support INT. But there aren't any requirements to ensure that the R&D will not violate ethics, and also the how they're going, to whom are they going to sell the outcome of the R&D. For instance, they may be engaged in R&D of AI, and the products may then be sold to weapon producers or manufacturers. So would there be guidelines for companies engaged in INT in Hong Kong to ensure that this will not happen? First, the current situation. Items supported by the INT fund. Now, if we are talking about R&D or activities that are done by universities and R&D centers, when it comes to commercialization, if there are things we consider unethical, well, they will not be done. As regards the future platform, because there will be so many research clusters, what will happen? Well, we have taken on board views from Mr. Chu. So in the governance framework of the 2 research clusters, we will see how the point made by Mr. Chu can be included, so that the commercialization and the R&D of these research clusters will take this into account. It will be included in our governance document. Thank you, Commissioner, for your response. So what we don't want should not be applied to others. We will not accept the kind of surveillance or in the mainland. Now, if Hong Kong is used as an R&D base, we don't want the technology to be sold to the mainland for manufacturing, and so this is not we don't want. And for some cases, I think we should take this into account. For technology that is not applied in this way in Hong Kong, we should not encourage or even to stop R&D companies in Hong Kong to do this within our territory. This is just a comment. Mr. Gary Fan, we only have 10 minutes left. Now, if we want the Commissioner to leave this meeting happy, please do not ask further questions. And after Mr. Gary Fan, I'll draw a line, and that will be the end of this year's FC. All right, you are going to promote INT by establishing 2 research clusters. And according to the paper, the 2 research clusters were proposed by the FS in his budget, and it will focus on AIs, robotics technology, life science, health-related researches, and $7 billion will be spent on the administration aspect. All right. In addition to healthcare-related researches as well as AI, robotics technologies, I'd like to know whether the government has any initial assessment that robotics technologies are suitable in Hong Kong. When we reviewed another paper on construction INT fund, there was similar discussion. We have some views. The reason why we have chosen, I'm asking about robotics. All right, robotics technology. We're talking about robotics technology and not the production of robots. The application of robotics technology can be very wide. For instance, surgical robotics can be very useful. And now, I'm not talking about the production of a robot, but robotics technology is indispensable to sophisticated manufacturing. So this together with AI will have a very wide scope of application, whether it be in education, healthcare, and rehabilitation of patients, and in production and transport. Will that include construction? Yes, that can also be used. There was a paper on the construction INT fund, and perhaps workers may be trained to use robotics so as to relieve the labor-intensive construction industry manpower requirement. Yes, robotics can help to reduce industrial diseases or injuries, and our universities have done quite well in this area. All right, if there are no further questions, I will now put FCR 2018-1945 to the vote. With those in favor, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. I think division, I don't know whether we have a time. Oh, abstention. Okay, abstention. That's really scared me. I'm of the view that the majority of members are voting in support of the paper. The paper is passed. Thank you. We now adjourn.